Okay, before proceeding to the next chapter, we can take a quick revision of Linux and some interesting facts about Linux. See, most students think Windows dominates computing, but the reality is 90% of the internet servers run on Linux. All major cloud platforms use Linux, like Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, Android, which is based on Linux kernel, so it powers billions of smartphones. Supercomputers, 100% of the world's top supercomputers run on Linux. So you can say that Linux is invisible to normal users, but it powers the backbone of the digital world. So what exactly is Linux? Uh, in this lecture, I'm thoroughly talking about Linux. So, what do you think? What exactly Linux is about? Many students confuse Linux with Ubuntu, right? But Linux is a kernel, the brain of OS, that is operating system. It's a complete package like Ubuntu, Fedora, etc. These are the complete package. Linux was created in 1991 by Linus Torvalds, as I discussed earlier. He was just a 20-year-old student when he built it. So you can say Linux was not built by a company, it was built by a student. That uh, inspire you also, I think. It's an open source power, means everyone can see the source code, everyone can modify it, everyone can improve it. Okay, it create global collaboration, faster innovation, transparent security. Compare uh, also you want to compare this with closed source system. So if thousands of developers inspect code daily, will it be more secure or less secure? Okay, tell. If thousands of developers inspect code daily, will it be more secure or less secure? Okay, think about it and then answer. Okay, Linux architecture. Linux has hardware, kernel, shell, applications, okay, which I discuss on the next uh, lecture. Kernels handles memory management, process management, device drivers, file system. GUI is optional in Linux. Command line is the real power. Okay. The question is why hackers and cybersecurity experts love Linux. What do you think? Actually, Linux gives full control, network tools, permission system, root access. Okay. Cybersecurity distributed like Linux are based on what? Cybersecurity distributions like Kali Linux are based just on Linux because customization, stability, low resource uses are the very powerful features of Linux. Acha, what Linux do in research and academic area? There are many areas where we can see the use of Linux, like bioinformatics pipelines run on Linux, machine learning frameworks run better on Linux, HPC clusters use Linux, most AI research labs use Linux servers, even CERN uses Linux based system. So you can say if you want to enter research, Linux is not optional, it is mandatory. Linux is companies also. Linux, big companies rely on Linux like Google, Facebook, Netflix, Tesla, servers, DevOps pipelines, they all use Linux. Why Linux is more secure? The key reason is that strong permission system. It has strong permission system, less malware targeting, open source auditing, no forced background services. Okay. Or what are the career growth when we use Linux? So Linux skills open careers in DevOps engineer, cloud engineer, system administrator, cybersecurity analyst, embedded systems engineer, research computing. Okay. Let me talk about some interesting facts about Linux. The first Linux version had only 10,000 line of code. See, it's a very interesting fact that you must write down. The first Linux version had only 10,000 lines of code. Today, the Linux kernel has more than 30 million lines of code. It supports almost every hardware architecture. It can run on supercomputers, smart TVs, routers, cars, space systems. Even NASA uses Linux systems in many operations. And you should not fear Linux. Okay. The reason is command line is not difficult, it is precise. Windows hides complexity. Linux teaches computing fundamentals. You can close it with Linux does not just teach you how to use a computer, teaches you how a computer works. Okay, I repeat, Linux does not just teach you how to use a computer, it teaches you how a computer works. If you master Linux, you stop being a user and become a creator. So here are some questions for you and try to give the answer. These are the basics questions on operating system. The question is that what is an operating system? See, an operating system is system software that manages all the hardware and softwares of a computer and allows user to use the system easily, right? The second question is why is an operating system necessary? The answer is without an operating system, a computer cannot run applications, manage files, or interact with users. Question number third. Why is the operating system called the manager of a computer? The answer is because it controls memory, processes, files, and hardware devices, just like a manager controls work in an organization. Okay, now tell me the examples of operating system. I have listed many of example throughout this lecture. Simply examples include Linux, Windows, Mac OS, and Android. Okay, so let's move on the next section of questions. Introduction to Linux. So the first question is what is Linux? Basically, Linux is a free and open source operating system that is widely used in computers, servers, and mobile devices. Next question. Who developed Linux? Linux was developed by Linus Torvalds in early 1990s, right? Okay, next. What does open source means? Open source means that the source code is freely available and can be modified by anyone. That is the meaning of open source. Next, how is Linux different from Windows? The answer is Linux is free and customizable, while Windows is paid and proprietary. Okay, let's move on the section. Next section, features and advantages of Linux. So the first question is, what does multi-user mean in Linux? What does multi-user mean in Linux? The answer is multi-user means multiple users can use the same system at the same time without interfering with each other. Next question, what does multitasking means? Multitasking means the operating system can run multiple programs at the same time. Next, why is Linux considered secure? Linux uses strong permission and access control systems which prevent unauthorized access, right? Next question, why is Linux considered stable? The answer is Linux manages system resources efficiently, so it rarely crashes. Let's move on another section, that is process management. So the first question of this section is, what is a process? A process is is a program that is currently running in the computer. As simple as a process is a program that is currently running in the system. Next, what is process management? Process management is the task of starting, stopping, scheduling, and controlling the processes. Next, how does Linux manage multiple processes? The answer is Linux uses scheduling to decide which process gets CPU time and which process must wait. The next question, what is a thread? The answer is a thread is a small unit of a process that performs a specific task with a program. Let's move on the next section, that is memory management. So the first question of this section is, what is memory management? Memory management is the process of controlling how RAM is used by running programs, right? Next question, why is RAM important? RAM stores currently running programs and data, which helps the system work faster. That's why it become very important. Next question, what is paging? So paging is a technique where memory is divided into small blocks to use RAM efficiently, right? Next question, what is swapping? Swapping is the process of moving unused data from RAM to the hard disk when memory is full. Okay, let's move on the section, another section, that is file and storage management. And the question of this section is, what is a file system? What do you mean by file system? A file system is a method used by Linux to organize and store files on a storage device. Okay, next, how are files organized in Linux? The answer is, files are organized in a tree-like directory structure starting from the root directory. Okay, next, what is the root directory? The root directory is the top level directory in Linux and is represented by slash, right? Next question, what is a file path? A file path shows the location of a file in the directory structure. Okay, let's come on the another section, that is access control and security. So the first question of this section is, what are file permissions? File permissions decide who can read, write, or execute a file, right? Next question, what are the three types of permission? I told you in the previous one. Yeah, it's read, write, and execute. Okay. The three types of permission is read, write, and execute. Okay, next question. Who are the three permission categories in Linux? These are the owner, group, and others. Owner, group, and others. Okay, last one. Why are permission important? The answer is, permissions protect files from unauthorized access or accidental changes. Okay, Next section, that is Linux in real life. Okay, and it's also a conclusion part. So the first question of this section is, where is Linux commonly used? I told you many times in throughout my lecture that Linux is commonly used in servers, cloud computing, and embedded systems. Next question, which mobile operating system uses Linux? Android is based on the Linux kernel, right? Next question, why do companies prefer Linux for servers? Because it is secure, stable, and cost effective. Okay. Why should students learn Linux? Why you are learning Linux? Because learning Linux helps students understand operating system concepts and improve career opportunity. There are lots of career opportunity, right? Is Linux suitable for beginners? What do you think? And if it's suitable for beginners, then why? Yeah, because many Linux distributors are user friendly and well documented, right? Next, can Linux be customized? Yes, Linux can be customized according to user needs. Okay, the last one, is Linux a good career skill? Yeah, Linux is widely used in IT industries and has a strong demands, right? Okay, students, today's we learn about Linux and understood why it is important, uh, why it is one of the most powerful and widely used operating system in the world. From basic commands to understanding how the system works, Linux teaches us how to interact directly with a computer in a smart and efficient way, right? So remember, Linux is not just an operating system, it is a skill. Okay, it is used in servers, cybersecurity, cloud computing, supercomputers, and even Android devices. Many big companies like Google, Amazon, and IBM uses Linux-based systems, right? So I encourage all of you to practice the commands we discussed today. Linux cannot be learned only by watching. It becomes easy when you practice daily. Okay, we learn these commands more in detail in another lectures. So in our next lecture, we will explore more advanced topics and practical applications. So if you have any doubt, please revise today's concepts and feel free to ask questions. Okay, that's it. Thank you for your attention and participation. Keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep learning. Thank you.